What's up guys, it's Flamon from Flamon Miniatures, and today I will present to you how to paint this skeleton warrior from the Sepulchral Guard skeletons box. I'm sorry, I have no idea how to pronounce it. Let's just make short from it to Skeleton Guard. I'm sure calling this guy just a Skeleton Guard will work good as well, I think. Okay, so as you can see, this time I want to also record this video with a bit different background, because I think that I maybe will have better video quality if the background will be a bit darker than white material that you could see before. But well, I'm not sure. When I was testing it, it looked better. I will try to get a gray one in the future, but at this moment we'll have to stick to this one. But yeah, I think we will be able to see the details better. So going back to the miniature itself, let's face it, these skeletons are like, for me, they are the best skeleton warriors that I've ever seen produced by anyone. Maybe you saw something better, but for me they are perfect. Finally, I can see classic fantasy miniature skeleton warrior that just have a sword, a shield, and a bit of cloth over his hips. He's covering I don't know what, I don't know why, but I think he looks just perfect because of this small amount of details. This is just perfect. And today I will present to you a few tricks that I use when I'm painting my miniatures. I'm pretty sure that I won't be able to finish the entire miniature during this video, because you know how I work. I pay too much attention to every detail, and right now I can see. Okay, I had a. Okay, it's not removed. It's still here. Go away. I hope I will remember to remove it. I can see a dust fiber in here, and it's terrible, and it's irritating as hell. I don't know. Okay, I removed it. Okay, I'm sorry about this. I didn't see this detail before I started recording, so yeah, forgive me, but having dust on your miniature, it's terrible, and this part of dust was unfortunately sprayed into it. It's like you cannot avoid having any dust on your miniatures, but it's good to at least try to have as little as you can. And yeah, now you can see the glove, so you know that things are getting real. So yeah, so I will present to you a few tricks, and I also want to paint this miniature in more relaxed way than always, because as you know, I'm spending a lot of time on creating very smooth blends and transitions on my miniatures, thanks to which they look a bit like they are computer generated, but they're not. And today I want to paint this guy in a bit different way. I would say that when I'm painting, half of the time that I spend on painting is spent on making these smooth transitions. So I want today to make it different. Don't spend so much time and just enjoy painting this skeleton. Yeah. And yeah, and I will present to you a few tricks and rules that if you will follow, then your miniatures will most definitely look better. So let's start. One of the most important things that you need to remember when you're painting swords is that while we want to create contrast on them, because when we paint anything in the way that makes strong contrast, like you have dark color and then all of a sudden bright color, then if you will make it correctly, then your eye will see this as metallic surface. But when you're painting sword, you also need to think about the source of light. Of course, we will have to be not as realistic as we could when we're painting these guys, because when I'm painting, I'm just assuming that the source of light is above, but let's say that this is front of the miniature. It's coming from above, but on angle like this, because we are usually imagining that our miniatures are illuminated by the sun, and very often people are making pretty big mistake because of zenithal lighting, this whole thing with spraying your miniature with white paint from above. It's useful, but it depends if you are happy with it or if you want to have something more. So if you want to have something more, then keep in mind that you don't have sun in this position like almost never and nowhere on the face of the earth. Usually when a character is illuminated by sun, the sun is somewhere in here. It's on angle like this. And because of that, if this sword would be in, let's say that the sun is in here, okay? If this sword would be in this position, then most of people would paint the brightest element in here, the brightest reflection in here. And this is a mistake, because sun is in here, so the tip should be a bit darker, and then the biggest reflection should be somewhere in here. Then it should be still very bright in this area, but a bit darker, because this toppest part, tip of this sword, would at this point reflect the sky above, not the sun. The sun will be somewhere here. And then let's keep in mind that the sun is still in this place. This part of the sword needs to be darker because the sun is in there. So this is shaded area. But you need to keep in mind that the photons that are produced by the sun are jumping from objects. So when the sun is shining from here, it's shooting photons in this direction, and they are jumping from every object that they hit. And because of this, they would jump of this, in this case that would be floor, and they would illuminate this part also, but with much weaker light. That's why elements like this would reflect surrounding objects. So you should not paint this with this classical way that you paint bright, dark, then bright, and here you make bright reflection to create contrast. No, you should paint this in darker colors, but you should also paint reflections in here. They just need to be darker. And you can go in this direction, in this way, classical way, if you feel comfortable. I'm just presenting you the way how you can make it better. And like in this case, here we have an leg. I was trying to remember how this bone is called, but I don't. So this part of the sword, in here and in here, if that would be, of course, polished sword, because there are different levels of how polished it is, but it would reflect colors from these bones, because they are very close to them. And this part would probably, let's say that we would have grass in here. then this part of the sword would reflect this grass. So this reflection would have to be green, but not juicy saturated green, rather something a bit darker. But the important thing when you're painting with non-metallics is that metals are reflecting elements around them. And then you also need to decide how polished your the detail that you want to paint is supposed to be. I honestly would like to paint this sword as if that would be a reflective sword, because that's what I usually do and that's what I like. And I think I will start with this. And then I will make it dirtier. More dirty? Not sure. Okay, so let's start with this. Oh. Of course, I will need black paint. And another extremely necessary color for me is black gray. And neutral gray. I'm using Vallejo paints, Model Color, but you can use any brand. Keep in mind, very important thing is that it's not important which brand you are using. Important is to just have similar colors. So don't worry, just try to find something similar. You don't have to keep in mind that you also don't need something that is identical. You just need to be close to this what I'm presenting. This side or this side? I need to decide. Okay, I think I will start with this because it's more comfortable in my hand. Okay, so let's start easy with painting the sword. Sorry. With black gray paint. The blade of the sword, of course. I will paint it if that would be reflective weapon. Oh my god, it's my head again. I'm sorry. I will try to don't do this more too often, but it will happen from time to time, most definitely. It will. Okay, so I painted it entirely with black gray. What now? Now it depends on how strong contrast you would like to have on your sword. So you need to decide. I usually like to mix black paint with black gray in proportions like 50% to 50%, because then I have color that is I would call it rather bright black than very dark gray. Yeah, and I think that this color will be good for shaded parts on this blade. Okay, so now I basically decided that I want to have reflection in here, the strongest reflection, and then I will have a bit darker color in here, and then another reflection here that will be weaker than this one. Wow! Okay, this happened. It happens. Okay, so now let's paint this part with this color too. And yeah, I want to have strong reflection here. So now let's take neutral gray in here. Okay, I won't make this any larger because I think this is maximum of what I can give you with sharp image. Okay, so keep in mind that this part, top part, has to be much brighter than the bottom part. So I'm not sure if I should even make black gray the darkest. The darkest shadow in here. It might be even. I think it might be too dark. Yeah. Let's paint it entirely with neutral gray. Okay. I think it will work better this way. Okay, now let's highlight these top parts of these holes. Okay. As you can see, it already looks like something. Okay, now I need more paints. Now blue-gray pale. And I will already pour a bit in here. And white paint. I'm using polycolor paints because I decided one day that I should try out normal paints for normal painting, not for miniatures. And as it turned out, these are great. So I will use these paints too. You can find them in normal art shops. I highly recommend checking them out. Okay, so let's paint this whole tip with blue-gray pale. Now is maybe a bit surprising. I'm not sure how it will work out. Surprising way of going with this reflection. I go in this shape, in this, because hard to tell exactly why. I saw many times that the light on swords can behave like this because they are not flat in here. They're usually curved, and the light behaves a bit different on them. So I would like to present this shadow in this reflection in similar way. Okay, so like I said, I need another reflection here to make it look metallic. And we need small reflection in here, and that will be reflecting this part. Okay, now let's mix white paint with blue-gray pale. Now I will leave a little bit of this blue-gray pale on the tip of the sword. Let's highlight this. I think it starts to look a bit metallic. Okay, a small shadow in here. I cannot exactly explain why they are appearing in these areas. I think that they will look more interesting like this. And the most important thing is that I experiment. I paint things in places, and then when I'm not happy with them, I just repaint them. I feel that this is too dark. Is this everything painted with neutral gray? That was this shadow was simply too dark. It cannot be this dark if I want to go with brighter reflections in other places. Yeah, okay, I think I will paint it entirely with this color. I think it became a bit too complicated. Especially that I want to highlight it a little bit more. So I take white paint and I will add just a little bit of blue-gray pale to it, just enough to change its color into a bit darker, because I'm saving white paint for more intense situations. Yeah, it has to be solid. It cannot be like this. It just, as you can see, it just didn't look perfect. So like I said, it happens sometime. The biggest problem is if I would want to be realistic with painting this blade, I would just to have this gradiently go from really bright to still very bright in the end, and that would be more realistic but also more boring, and I want to make this interesting, so it's a bit problematic. And yeah, I guess this rounded shape is not working great in here. Like I said, I often try things out, and if they don't work out, then I change them. Okay, so now I will take blue-gray pale paint, and I will paint plenty of tiny stripes in here. You see, I'm trying to, because I want to now to create transitions, smoother transitions. So now I'm trying to barely touch the surface, barely scratch it with the tip of my brush. When you are barely scratching it, then you are leaving very, very small amount of paint. This requires much more paint to create transition, but it's also a pretty effective technique. it's a bit like working with pencil. When you are drawing something and you want this to paint shadows with it. Now brighter color, and I'm painting a little over the brighter and the darker layer of paint that I painted previously. As you can see now, I'm not trying to create very smooth transitions, so I'm leaving more visible stripes. Okay, because it's an old sword and I can already see comments of people saying that this is painted wrong because it's supposed to be rusty destroyed sword. Well, I know it's supposed to be, but I like it this way. Maybe I will paint some rust on it later. So yeah, so I'm painting tiny stripes over the darker layer, over the brighter layer. I'm leaving plenty of them, as you can see, because these are very thin stripes and they are drying very quickly, and they are leaving color that is underneath them a bit visible. So I need to paint a lot of them in order to create smooth transitions, and this all works very nice. Now the brightest color. And I'm trying to be, because it's supposed to be, after all, rather damaged sword, I'm trying to be a bit chaotic with this, with painting these stripes. If you want to try to have more experience with this technique, you can try it out even when you are working. Just take your pen or pencil, a piece of paper, and try to gently scratch the surface of this paper with the pen or pencil, and try to create simply smooth transitions. Barely scratch the surface. You will see that even with pen, you can make different shadows and have different experience depending on how strong you push it to the surface of the paper. That's basically how I created this technique. I was doodling when I was on my university doing lectures, and yeah, I wanted to create nice shadows with my pencil. Okay, now using the side of the tip of my brush, I'm making this tab of the sword brighter. Okay, this is the bright part of the sword. Now you can add also, you should add bright line in here, because this is also an edge, and edges are reflecting the light strongly, and I make them look very bright. Okay, I think it looks pretty nice. Okay, so as you can see, it's important to keep this part of the sword bright. And now let's go to the bottom part. And yeah, this is my head. It will appear from time to time. Okay, so now what we want to do is to create bright reflection in here. This is, oh no, it's blue-gray pale. It's too bright. I wanted to use neutral gray. Okay. Okay, so let's leave it to, and let's let it dry. Okay, black, black, black. Now brighter color in here. Yeah, but I think I will make it more interesting. You see, I want these reflections to be here, here. And it will look good if I will place them simply in these places where it's darker on this top part, because then I create contrast, and human brain likes stronger contrast. And here we can add also colors. So I know where I want to have reflections. Now let's think about some color. Wait, what just happened, man? Okay. Okay, so now I want to paint reflections from on the bottom of the sword, and I will make it a bit more reflective. That's why I will use some colors like flat earth. Okay, it's brown. Another color that I will use is this one, burnt umber. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Okay, it's very dark brown. Okay, so first, let's take this flat earth and paint these reflections with it. And this one too, because we have to be consistent. Now let's paint sides of these reflections with this something umber. Okay, so now I will do the same thing that I did before, but now I take burnt umber and I will paint scratches around these places when I was just painting with it. I will try to paint a bit over these gray parts. Okay, that was quick because they are very similar tonations. Okay, now a little bit over this flat earth parts. Okay, let's go back to flat earth for a moment, and let's paint scratches on in the same places with it. Thanks to this, I have different type of scratches on the surface that make it look more damaged, because I have darker scratches on brighter layer and on brighter color and lighter scratches on darker color. It makes it look more natural. Okay, now I would like to use some kind of maybe tan earth would work. Let's see. Like I said, it's not like I sit and I know what I want to paint. At least not always. Sometimes I do, but I usually don't. But I try things, see if they work, if they are cool, and if they are great, I leave things like this. Okay. And now I will paint scratches with tan earth. And I will just, I will not play with making layers, I will just go straight to the point when I paint scratches on the surface. You can go a bit further. And the bottom part, if you want to know, could have more scratches than the top part, because top part is because it's because the top part is more strongly illuminated. Many scratches would not be visible in reality, but bottom part is a different thing, so you can make more visible scratches in here. I will leave this reflection a bit darker just to make it more interesting. Now this edge should be more visible. Bottom edge should be more visible anyway. And yeah, and this part has to be brighter too. Sometimes it's a smart move to move your position of your miniature to allow you to see it from a different perspective. Then you can feel if things are looking good from each perspective, then you did a great job. Okay, I think I will make things a bit darker in here with burnt umber, because this reflection should appear more suddenly, because this is how metal works. Reflections I mean, it depends on the situation, of course, but this looks better for us from the pointing point of view. Okay, now let's make these edges brighter. Now the brightest reflections. Place them just in a few places. On the edges. And here I made this bright reflection too high. Too big. Okay. So that more or less would be the blade. Of course, there are more things that can be done with it. But right now I want to move to other details on the sword. Look, it looks pretty metallic to me. Okay. So another details now. Okay, I will reimagine this, because this part and this part of the sword, well, they could be the same thing. It's when you're making the sword, then actually the blade and the handle, if I remember correctly, are the same part of the sword. I mean, for sure, the sword goes in here, and here you can have some kind of ornament made from different material, but this part should be the same as the sword. And then this handle is being wrapped with leather to allow warrior to hold it in your hand, to don't slip. And yeah, so depending on what the sculptor had on his mind, if this is supposed to be you know, very old rusty sword, then this should be also painted as part of this. It looks like this is one and the same, and I think we should paint it in this way. But of course this detail would never been polished, so we need to paint it a bit differently. So let's start with black gray. Okay, I was not careful enough. But this part is completely different. Of course, this is the is it called guard, if I remember correctly? It's here in order that in a sword fight blades of swords are going through each other, and they can easily slip, and then they move here, and then the guard is protecting your hand from getting cut with a blade. So, but this is a different part of sword that is being attached to it separately, and I think I will start with painting with burnt umber. because I would like to make it yellow. This part of swords were often made of brass, yellow metal, that we in our hobby are we're very often changing into gold. These two metals are very similar to each other because they are two reflective yellow metals, so it's very hard to paint it in a way that it would make significant difference, that you would understand that you are looking on brass and not on gold. So now while this is drying, let's take neutral gray and paint a few stripes in here with it, because we need to have reflection on the bottom part. As you can see, I'm not playing with any layers, I'm just creating stripes, and now I will create stripes on the top part, but as you can see, I'm just painting them all over the place. As you can see, in this way I'm creating structure. Okay, and on the bottom part, let's take black gray and paint a few stripes over these stripes. Thanks to this, it became a bit smoother. Yeah, but I need to create much smaller reflections, less bright reflections in here. Okay, so let's paint now with blue gray pale. And these parts, like I said, they are not polished, so they should be a bit darker and have smaller contrast. I think I will take black, and with this I'll make stronger shadow in here, or maybe I'm making a mistake, but like I told you before, I'm not sure how it will look. I just need to try it out. Okay, I think it's pretty much okay. I can take brighter color and with this paint a few dots on the top part of this detail, because it is still the same metal, so there could be scratches on its surface that would reflect the light in brighter way than the detail itself. Okay, something like this. Okay, now that this part dried out, I can paint it with as you can see, I will once again paint with painting tiny stripes and dots on the surface. I'm not painting the entire structures. work now. I'm working more chaotic way. Thanks to this detail will look like it's more damaged than it is. Okay. Okay, now but there are a few colors that we can use now. I would go with gold brown because it's paler than, it's a bit less saturated than ochre brown, and then very important yellow ochre. And yellow ochre, it looks similar because I didn't shake it well. Let me show you this now. Come on. It behaves very poorly right now, but it should be okay. Now in the middle you can see that it's much brighter than gold brown. Okay, so once again, let's highlight this part. Okay. Now scratches everywhere. And there are places that we need to make brighter. So like in here. Oh my god, it fell off. Okay, bro, I will hold you like this. Or I can, maybe it will sit better in here. Okay, it's fixed. Okay, so we need, okay, he doesn't sit better in here. Okay, a bit more here. So you see, if I paint scratches and dots and I paint this detail in this way, not creating bigger areas, then it looks like it's more damaged. And now yellow ochre. This is the name. I keep forgetting them. There are a few types of ochres, so. Okay, so I do the same thing. I just try to highlight this. It's actually so similar that I think I will just have to start with making it brighter with white paint. Now you can see I can see this is like this. Here these shapes. Okay. Okay, now it looks more damaged. Okay, now let's take a bit of white and a bit of yellow that I already had on my paintbrush. And let's paint a few reflections of light on the sword. Like especially on these top edges, on these broken elements. We could stick to edges actually. Okay. I'm pretty sure that, yeah, I can see that the difference between this and gold is so small that it practically doesn't exist. Okay, now let's take a bit of this brightest mixture and paint a few scratches on the surface of the blade. Few bigger scratches. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Another one in similar direction. It's always very scary because you can ruin a really good paint job with them. Of course, we need another one in different direction. And another one. And another one. And a few more. Okay, let's take blue-gray and make 2 more stripes on the bottom. It will look more interesting if you will use more colors than just one, because then the scratches will look like if they have if the scratches have different depth. They are on different depth. Now white paint and a few reflections in the brightest places on the sword. You can even add a few reflections in here. It looks like the brightest reflections from the source of light. Okay, let's add another here. Okay. And one here. Okay. Let me. Okay, just a moment, please. Okay, so this is the sword. As you can see at this point, it's not rusty at all. But what is the most important thing is to place reflections of light in the right places. And the thing, there are a few important things about painting details like this. Today I painted this sword maybe I should add white background. Let me see. No, I think it looks worse. Okay, so I painted this sword in this way in order to present to you a few basic rules that are important for painting swords. And of course you can use this technique now on any sword, not only Skeletor sword, because these are universal rules about how lights and shadows work. And it's really easy to make it rusty now But you need to keep in mind another thing that is very important, that rust is not reflecting the light in the same way like metal, and so if we would want to paint this sword in realistic way, then it would have to be fully covered in rust, maybe with a few scratches of bright metal in there, and then it would simply have to be reddish brown. That's all. And that, from my point of view, is a bit boring, because that's just how I see it. So I would now, if I would want to make it more rusty, I would probably in later steps make just glazes with brown paints all over this place, allowing these reflections and shadows to stay right there where I painted them. And thanks to this, while the sword will not be realistic at all, it will be more interesting, because there will be contrast, there will be reflections, there will be shadows. And this, in my opinion, looks better, especially on such small scales, because the smaller miniature you paint, the stronger contrast you need to create in order to make the details visible and easy to read. So while this is not realistic, I like the way how it looks. So you need to simply answer this one question. Do you want your miniature to look more realistic, or do you want to make it more spectacular? So that's all you need to know. And yeah, and that would be it for today. On the next video, I will start working on these bones and present to you a few tricks how to make them easily looking cool with strong contrast. So that would be it for today. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this, and see you on the next one. Bye.